Hello, class. I welcome you all to this session. This session, we are going to discuss about directing. Directing is one of the key managerial function. So, if you look into managerial function, you have planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling. So, it is the fourth function. It is a function that will enable the organization to achieve its objectives to the maximum. That is, if you have proper direction, you would be able to achieve the objective that you have set in a faster phase. So, when we look into the concept and features of directing, directing refers to the process of instructing, guiding, counseling, motivating, and leading people in the organization to achieve its objectives. So, it is like a guiding force leading all the human resource in the organization to achieve organization's objectives. Okay, so the key features are directing initiates action. It is an executive function. Okay, it initiates action. Directing takes place at every level of management. Wherever superior subordinate relations exist, directing takes place. Directing is a continuous process throughout the life of the organization. Directing flows from top to bottom. It is wherever there is organizational hierarchy, directing flows from top to bottom. So directing, it is initiates action. So you can look into this picture, the importance or characteristics of directing. Directing initiates action. Directing is continuous process. Directing take place at every level of management. Directing flows from the top to bottom. Now, the importance of directing, if you look into, it initiates action towards attainment of desired objectives, integrates employees' effort. That is, see, when you have employees, different stages like from the frontline staffs, from the persons who are heading the department, persons who is working in the middle level management, persons who are at the top level management. So when you have various employees, you have to integrate the efforts of various employees towards the attainment of organization goals. So that is the importance of directing. Then guides employees. The employees, when they are given a right direction, they will know where they have to do what kind of task to attain organization objective. Thereby they get satisfied their needs also. So it guides the employees. Then it facilitates introduction of charges. That is, introduction of charges in sense, see, when you have some sort of in charge or something, or when there is any change in the organization, so person whoever is to be in charge of something should be kept ready. How to keep it ready, how to keep those persons ready? By delegating the authority. So it is like, because of change, what happens, you are introducing some other person in charge. Okay, so facilitate introduction of charges. Then brings stability and balance. So whenever there is directing, the employees exactly know what they are supposed to do, and they know why they are doing, because the objective of the organization is so and so. So it brings in more stability and balance. So this is how you need to interpret this. So importance of directing. Then you have the elements of directing. The first element is supervision. Super means over and above. Vision is the art of seeing objects. So, overseeing the employees at work to ensure optimum utilization of resources and achieving work targets. So, when you have a person to supervise your work, obviously you think you would be performing uh, to your optimum level, because you know very well someone is watching you. In current scenario, you have the CCTV camera that's been fit in various localities of work spots, so which enable the employees to actually make them more responsible and more attentive towards their work without whiling their time by informal groups or something like that. So you have the supervision either in the human form or in the machinery form like CCTV cameras, which oversees the work. So due diligence is there, ethics is followed, coach well-being is followed, and quality of work is attained. So the importance of supervision is maintains day-to-day contact. So supervisors are persons who actually maintain day-to-day contact with the employees in the organization, because they will communicate to the employees what and all they are supposed to do in the organization. And if there is any backlog, they will say that you have to do so and so better, so that the employees know exactly what they are supposed to do. Then it ensures performance of work. So supervision is one area where the in performance of work is being boosted. There are a lot of researches that shows that factories which has supervisors, effective supervisors, increase their productivity when compared to factories which doesn't have supervision. But there may be contradiction in various research theses, but anyways, in a general tone, it ensures the performance of work. So performance of work increases. Then gives feedback. Obviously, supervisors the person who communicate to the employees or workers, who actually give feedback to their work that's been done. Then link between the workers and the management. So there is a link that has been established between the workers and the management. So this link is to be very effective. The communication should be effective to maintain effective relationship. Otherwise, what happens is that the workers may not get uh, you know that much of confidence over the supervisors, so that they engage in lockouts, strikes, and things like that, which is not good for the organization towards the attainment of goals. So it's the link between the workers and management. Provides on the job training. What is this on the job training? See, supervisors are the persons who are well known with the work that they are going to perform. So the employees, if at all they have anything like they do not know something, or they wanted to ask some doubt, they can very well call the supervisors to clarify certain things, so that the work will be performed better. So it provides on the job training, builds high morale among the workers because they are watched. So obviously the morale goes up. Then helps in maintaining group unity. So unity is the strength, so it maintains group unity. Now these are all are importance of supervision. Only if supervision is effective, all these things can be achieved. So the first element of directing is supervision. The second element of directing is motivation. Now you can see in the picture, I can't do it, something it says, but someone is cutting that I can't, no, which means I can do it. So that is motivation, right? In many areas of life where we find someone actually try to push us to do certain things, motivates us to do certain things. But in majority of the situation, as you grow, you need to be self motivated. Okay, so that motivation has to come from within, so you develop it over a period of time. Now what is motivation? Motivation, inducement to act or move. Motivation means it is the inducement to act or move, do something. Okay, it's action. Motivation is action, so it induces to you to do that action. In the context of an organization, it means the process of making subordinates to act in a desired manner to achieve certain organizational goals. So, desired manner. So, what manner that the superior wants the subordinates to act. So, motivation can do that actually. Okay, so what are the features? It is an internal feeling. Obviously, I told you it is an internal feeling. It has to come from within. It produces goal directed behavior. So you have a particular target, you are motivated, you attain it. So that it produces goal directed behavior. It can be either positive or negative. See, a positive motivation is like a tap at the back, okay, saying that very good, you can do it, yes. Who else can do other than you? So you are talented. All these things are positive motivation. There are negative motivation like insults and things like that. It depends on the person who take uh, the control over it. So if you are negatively motivated, say some teachers or some mentors may sometimes motivate us in a negative way, like you cannot do it, what are you doing, you do not know anything. So that those kind of things, if at all it makes you to do better, so then it is a negative motivation. But negative motivations are not appealing to use over a period of time, so it cannot be effective on a long run. So you need to be motivating people on a positive note. So it is a complex process. It's not as easy as you think that motivation is very easily attained. No, motivation is a complex process. Then the third element of directing is leadership. Now, what is leadership? Leadership is leading the group of people to attain some group objective. Okay, so leadership is the process of influencing the behavior of people by making them strive voluntarily. That word voluntarily is very important, towards achievement of organizational goals. So leadership is a person who influence other people to attain the goals voluntarily. So there is a voluntary change in the behavior, a voluntary action that's making the people to work, act basically. So the features are the ability of an individual to influence others, the ability of individuals to influence others. If you are able to influence others, you have a leadership quality. Tries to bring change in behavior of others. So if at all, on a positive note, we will all look into this as a positive note. So try to be change the behavior of others on a positive note. Indicates interpersonal relations between leaders and followers, sorry. So it indicates interpersonal relationship, means a communicative relationship where the followers look up to the leaders, follow whatever the leaders say them to do. Okay, and at times leaders also listen to their followers and are able to develop a cordial relationship with them. So relationship between leaders and followers, that's what it means. So exercised to achieve common goal of the organization. What is this exercised to achieve common goals of the organization? See, leadership, why all these processes are taking place, it is to attain the goal, simple as that. Okay, and leadership is a continuous process. You cannot say that I am leader today, I'll not be the leader tomorrow, I'll not be the leader next year. No, it's not like that. It is a continuous process. Once you are a leader, you're a leader forever. That's it. So you can look into that, the diagram. Teamwork, motivation, competence, skills, responsibility, communication, power, and support. So these are all the important elements of leadership quality. Now, the fourth element of directing is communication in the process of exchange. That is, communication is the process of exchange of information between two or more persons to reach common understanding. So you reach common understanding, you need communication. Whatever I think, if I am communicating to you to the in the tone that you also receive in the manner that I think. So whatever I believe that I have communicated, you also believe that you have received it in the same form. So without any change. So the elements of communication process, you have the sender, message, whatever the message that the sender is sending, that is encoding. That is encoding means you encode through a media, either through a loudspeaker or a cell phone or any other mode, email or so and so. Okay, so that media is your choice. So that media transfer the information to you. You decode, the person whoever is receiving the communication decode it, get and he is able to provide feedback and noise. See, in the next thing I would be introducing the communication process chart. So you can, we will be anyways revising these things, so I will be introducing that to you. So as of now you understand the element of directing. So we saw 4 elements of directing. What are they? You can understand that 4 elements of directing. The first element is, can you recap? Yes, think. I want you all to think what is the first. It is the supervision. Second one is motivation. Third one is leadership. And fourth one is communication. So leadership is basically of 3 styles. So you have various styles of leadership. It refers to the leader's behavior, how he is behaving with his subordinates. So a behavioral pattern which the leader reflects in his role as a leader is often described as the style of leadership. So number 1, you have the autocratic or authoritarian leadership. Number 2, democratic or participative leadership. Number 3, laissez-faire or free rein leadership. So the first one, if you can look into this diagram, the first one is autocratic. So the leader is communicating to his subordinates, do this, that's it. So the subordinates cannot say anything other than okay sir or yes sir, that's it. He cannot say no sir or any other communication to the leader. So it is an authoritative leadership or autocratic leadership. The second diagram, if you look into it, is a laissez-faire. Do this or that as you see fit. So the leader is actually giving the option to the subordinates. You can do this or that. It's your choice. It's absolutely your freedom. So laissez-faire is a thing that is pronounces freedom to the subordinates. Okay, and democratic leadership is, what do you think we should do? So it's like the leader is trying to communicate something and he asks the feedback of the subordinates. Okay, and the subordinates are telling some feedback, and that feedback is actually accepted or implemented if it is feasible. So this is called as democratic. Okay, so you have 3 styles: autocratic, laissez-faire and democratic, which is very very important. Even in your higher education you will be able to learn this, and in practical life also you will be applying this in various aspects of your life. So let's look into autocratic or authoritarian leadership in detail. So you have a diagram like leader is dictating something and everyone like okay sir, yes sir, we will do it sir, please sir, yeah, like that. So it is a one-way communication only. There is no two-way communication, which means the leader can only communicate to the subordinates, that's it. Subordinates cannot communicate to the leader. Then dogmatic, do not wish to be contradicted. That is, the leader do not wish to be contradicted. He has his own way of doing things, and he imposes that way to the subordinates. Okay, and rewards or punishment depends on the result. So based, if you done well, then you would be rewarded. If you didn't do, then punishment will be there. Then policy framed without consulting with subordinates. So whatever policy he frames and he just dictates it to the subordinate, no other choice, they have to follow. Then leader only has a decision making power, no other person in the group has a decision making power. It is a boss centered leadership. And the advantage of this type of leadership is quick decision making and increases productivity. See, when the industrial revolution started 1930 or 1940s, basically this was the predominant style of leadership where the managers, or where the owners of the business group would dictate certain things, and the people had to follow. But this style of leadership has lost its glory because in business world, and the new way of thinking, this will make work inflexible. So people would try to shift to other concerns where may be followed. So this is a complete no in this particular situation. It depends on the audience, it depends on the followers. If the followers are too playful, uneducated and unskilled, you need to follow this kind of autocratic or authoritarian leadership. But if the your followers, your subordinates are well educated, and they are expert in their own field, or they have a specialization in hand, then you cannot follow this kind of authoritative leadership, because they will try to find a better place. Okay, so this doesn't work in this kind of business world, where business world nowadays is moving into out of box thinking, and a lot of subordinates participation in the management. So all these things are encouraged in today's scenario. So I have understood that you have got one basic good idea about what is autocratic leadership. Moving forward to democratic leadership, the leader develops action plans and makes decision in consultation with his subordinates. That word, in consultation with his subordinates, is very very important. So which means the leader involves the subordinates in the decision making process, and the subordinates are given due respect, and their opinions are respected and implemented if it is effective. Okay, so it supports subordinates. It is a group centered leadership. So in a question, one mark question, they may ask what is group centered leadership. You should say democratic. So advantages are improves attitude and morale of employees. It is a mutual benefit, that is a win-win situation. See, any business organization or any business person would prefer win-win situation. Or win-win means it should be mutually beneficial. You benefit me, I benefit you, so like that any business relationship should be like this. So democratic leadership, it is a creativity is encouraged and rewarded. Leader has a final say, but group members are encouraged to participate. Then high productivity, strong contribution from the group. So these are the advantages, or the merits of democratic leadership. So this is the predominant leadership style that's prevailing in current scenario. The next that we are going to look into is the laissez faire or free rein leadership, which is laissez, to let or allow. Laissez means to let or allow. Faire means to do. That is, to let or allow to do work. So leader gives high degree of freedom. So it is see, it is a completely freedom oriented style of leadership. The leader is not present saying that you have to do this, you need to do that, nothing like that. He just says that you are supposed to do this. The ideology, the method, the procedure, everything is your freedom. So you can choose whatever you want, you feel comfortable to do a particular task. See, this type of leadership is highly recommended if the persons that are your subordinates, or the persons you're working with, are highly skilled, experts in their own field. Okay, so they know what to be done. So you need not interfere and tell them that you need to do your job like this. Say for example, a group of advocates are there, so they know exactly what they are supposed to do in the legal framework. Okay, a group of accountants are there. They know exactly what are the provisions that are related to a particular company, or how to conduct an audit, or something like that. So you need not interfere by saying them you're supposed to do like this. You cannot say that. So being a leader, laissez faire leadership is the group you're dealing with is highly skilled and a specialist and expert in their own field. So that's very important that you need to understand. Let subordinate to formulate their own objectives and ways to achieve it. So it subordinates to formulate their own objectives and the ways that they want to achieve it. It is a subordinate centered leadership. So subordinate centered leadership is laissez faire leadership. So in the diagram you can look into, there is for followers to make decisions. Group members expected to solve problem on their own. So you are not supposed to, as a leader, you are not supposed to interfere in day to day activity. You just call them to get a feedback, or work is being proceeded. So that's it. So these are the three styles of leadership. So as view a small activity. Now identify the leadership style that based on this diagram. So let me give you some, pause the video. I'll not give you some time, just pause the video. Try to actually look into this diagram and identify what are the three styles of leadership. So once you have done, you just have to note it down. Please write these diagram in your classwork. Write it down and guess it. Next slide you will be looking in the answer. So check whether you have got it right. So let us see. Yeah. So you have this. First is autocratic, where X is there. He just have communicate only to the subordinate, no other communication. So X is at the top and everyone is at the bottom level. So it is an autocratic style of leadership. The green one is democratic, where A is at the center and you have various other persons around A. So communication is two ways and it is a democratic style. Then the blue one is a laissez faire. So you have this A at the top, B, C, D, E are intercommunicating. They are just given their freedom. See, you can do whatever you want, but I want the work to be completed. That's what A says. So they try to communicate among themselves. They have their own freedom. They have their own way to do a particular task. So this is how I hope that you have got it right. If at all you have not got it right, please take down the correct one. The next thing, the last part of today's session is very important. It is Maslow's hierarchy need, theory of need. Okay, so it's a need theory. So Abraham Maslow is a economist who has given this 5 need based theory of any human being. It is highly recognized and applied. It is practically applicable in day to day business world and psychological world. So first need is a physiological need, where you have your basic physiological needs like bathing, food, water, sleep, exercise, etc. So the safety needs, what do you mean by safety? Security of body, or employment of resources, or morality of the family, or health or prosperity. So basically it talks about the safety and security needs. Then you have love and belongingness, family, friendship, and the love and affection that you share with your family. Then esteem needs are self esteem, confidence, achievement, respect of others, respect by others. So this is esteem needs. Then self actualization needs, that is morality, creativity, spontaneity, problem solving, lack of prejudice, and acceptance of fact. So these are the various things. If you can understand, I will explain this one by one in the next slide. So Maslow's need hierarchy theory So basic physiological needs is the basic need as a human being, whatever the need that you require. Hunger, thirst, shelter, sleep, all these things. Then safety and security needs is slightly different. Once this hunger, this physiological needs are satisfied, every human being try to ask for safety and security, that is job security, stability of income, and pension plans. So you have once the safety needs, because you are safe, okay, no more, you don't have to worry about the future, everything is set, okay, that is the safety needs. Once the safety needs is satisfied, social affiliation or belongingness needs starts. So it is the longingness for affection, acceptance, friendship, sense of belongingness, all these things are at the third stage. The fourth stage is self, that is esteem needs, that is self respect, autonomy, status, recognition, and attention. So once this belongingness and things are done, you tend to have this esteem needs, that you want to have a social status, you try to own a big car, a big house, like that. So you try to purchase a lot of costly luxurious goods to establish your status. Oh, so that is, those needs are called as esteem needs. Then comes self actualization need, where becoming what one is capable of becoming, so that is called as self actualization need. So basically, when you are trying to satisfy all the four needs, there will be one point where you think that material things are not important. You feel that you have to give back to the society, and in that bigger status, that is the actual big status in the life that it's been given to you. So whatever you want to become, you have become, and that stage when you reach, then it is called as self actualization need. So these are the Maslow's need hierarchy theory, but this theory is based on certain assumptions, that is people's behavior is based their needs. So, if at all you see a beggar, his behavior will be little unethical, because the normal, the physiological itself is not satisfied for him at times. So, that behavior. Suppose, for example, your safety and security needs are not satisfied, individuals will be like very frustrated, thinking about the future, how they are going to handle this, that. So the behavior is you know influenced. Then social is, once if you're not loved, or there's no affection from your family, then there is some sort of disturbance in your life, in your psychological needs. So that those things, and esteem needs is satisfied, you feel very happy, and you get new friends, you try to show off and things like that. Then you have the self actualization need. So once this the if you see Rajnikant, according to me, superstar, he would be very calm, composed, and he would carry himself in a very diplomatic way, talk to people in his own language, but people recognize it. So that's called as self actualization. So attaining a pinnacle of success, and still being humble. So that's one example that I can give you. So the assumption, so the first assumption is behavior is based on their needs. The second assumption is people needs are in hierarchical order. That is, it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It cannot be 5, 3, 2, 1, 4. No, it should be in a hierarchical order. So one by one only you can achieve it. You can attain it. Then a satisfied need can no longer motivate a person. So once a need is satisfied, it can no longer motivate a person. So these are the assumption. The fourth assumption is a person moves to next higher level of hierarchy only when the lower needs are satisfied. So it's like this. So once physiological needs satisfied, then only you'll move to the safety and security needs. Once that is satisfied, then only you'll move to the social affiliation and belongingness need. So this is how it works. So this is very much recognized in the human resource management, and also those studies related to psychology and business, where it involves with people. So basically this theory has a high recognition, and it's very important for your exams also. So make sure that you know this theory. This theory is going to come year after year if you are going to go for your higher education. So the next thing is, yes, we have come to an end of the presentation. So thank you all. I'll look into you in the next presentation. Thank you. Please make sure that you write notes that's there in the PPT. Okay. Thank you, class.